Hey, welcome to Write More Light. My name is Sarah. I'm with the Midwest Writing Center. And on this web series, you will find once a week I interview someone doing something awesome in the arts. And once a week, I give some kind of short little lesson on something literary. Today is a lesson day. After the meat of the video, I'll give updates on the Midwest Writing Center and leave you with a writing prompt. So, let's get into it. Today's video is inspired by a situation I was in recently. And being me, I had a lot of thoughts about it. I didn't give you the topic of the video. We're going to talk today about friend feedback. So when a friend asks you for feedback, or when you ask a friend for feedback, what on your writing, what will that look like? Now, often I use the word art and the word writing interchangeably. I can't really speak to giving feedback on any other kind of art. So, this is really going to be all writing content. Um, yeah, so I was recently in a situation with a friend who sent a piece of writing. Um, I like the idea that there are several people who could think that I'm talking about them, but I'm probably not. Um, and I didn't know what to do, so I just didn't even read this piece. Uh, my I'm different. My whole world is writing. I do it for fun. I do it for school. I do it for work, writing things. Um, so I'm I'm weird in this situation. Um, because there are a lot of responses I could have, and I know that there are a lot of different things that someone might want from sending a piece of writing. It could be that they just want someone to read it because they wrote it and they wanted to share. They could want um, to be cheered on. Like that's so great that you're writing. They could want feedback. They could want praise. And then even then, feedback has can be a lot of different things. Um, and then on the flip side, if you are someone who's not super deep in the writing world, and neither are your friends, um, you don't have to, no, sorry. If you're someone, you or your friends are people who are not super deep in the writing world, and you don't have me saying, okay, well, here are six things that I could respond with. Which one do you want? Um, that's fine. That's why this video is here. Um, I'm going to talk about how to give and receive feedback with friends who are not super familiar with or active in workshopping and feedback spaces, and also who aren't necessarily reading super widely or who are not necessarily reading the genre that you're writing, whatever that may mean. This is really important, this next thing. Writing belongs to all of us. Language belongs to all of us. Story belongs to all of us. We don't have to be professionals to get something out of it. We don't have to be workshopping or asking for feedback for some specific purpose. We can just want to get better or see how it's going or see how people respond and that's it. That's fine. And also if we're not professionals and we still want to be in the writing world, awesome. So, if you write a poem once a year and it's really just for yourself, but you're proud of it and interested in exploring that poem's possibilities, great. So, the rest of this is for anyone who wants to workshop with someone who's not in the writing world, for lack of a better phrasing. Um, the first thing is, and this is, I don't know, just general etiquette, I guess. Uh, if you're the sender or the receiver, this will flip, right? If you're sending your friend something you wrote, tell them why you're sending it. And if you're receiving it and your friend didn't, ask them why they want you to read it. Um, I can see asking feeling really weird. Because you don't want to be like, why'd you send me this? And you can't read tone in a message. But you can say, that's so cool that you sent me this. Is there something you want me to look for? Like before I read it, um is there something you wanted me how do you want me to respond? And now that's a normal thing for me to interact with because a lot of people think that I am able to give feedback. I think I am too. Um, but that isn't necessarily why they're sending me a piece of writing. And if somebody sends me a piece of writing and I'm like, this is great, but what if you change this thing? And they were like, I just wanted to share with you, man. Then I kind of a jerk. So that's the first most important thing. You don't have to have a reason to send things to people, but when you send them, just let them know. Like, I just wanted to share this with you, or I wrote this and I'm proud of it. Do you have any thoughts about what could maybe make it better? Now, if you're going to be doing this in ooh, like on a regular basis, or you're talking to somebody who's never been in any sort of workshop setting or hasn't been in any sort of workshop shedding setting in a really long time, you probably also want to set some ground rules, which I know can make like one weird text message can make one text message into sort of a weird interaction. It could. Because I'm like, here's a poem I wrote, and you're like, let's set some ground rules. Like that's I can see how that could feel weird. But it's also important so that you don't hurt your friends' feelings. Um, I care a lot about and I learn a lot about workshop methods. Most people don't. And so being able to say, I'm going to tell, like, the feedback I give you is going to be based on my taste. And I, you sent me an urban fantasy short story, but I've never read urban fantasy. So when I give you feedback, I don't know the the conditions, the tropes, the necessary parts of the genre that you're working in. So like keep that in mind. Um yeah, that's um that's a big thing. Conventions is the word I was looking for, the genre conventions. I have been in a lot of workshops where that specific thing happens, where somebody brings something either sci-fi or fantasy, and there's information missing. And generally speaking, within the genre convention, um, okay, when I say information is missing, I mean like there is a word that is made up. Um, and then the conversation around that piece becomes around that word. But within the genre convention, that word will be explained later through context because it will end up being some part of the culture that's being written about. So, that's an important ground rule, I think, sort of no matter what, is especially if you are not a super wide reader, so a reader of a wide variety of things, or if you're not super experienced with workshopping, reminding your friend that your feedback is going to be based in your taste will be helpful. Because, and this is something I say all the time, so you might tell your friend this as well. You created this. You are the god of this story, this poem, this play. This is your creation. The things that I say don't put me in charge. Just because I have a strong opinion, um, that doesn't make me in charge. You make the decisions here. And most people, no matter what, most people, the feedback they're giving is based in their taste. I try really hard not to do that. I try really hard to see what's happening in a piece, see it on its own as its own thing, outside of whether or not I would engage with it on my own. That's really hard to do. And it's a skill that I have built over many years of trying really hard to do that. So, um, and I'm not even necessarily saying I'm good at it. I'm just saying that's hard to do. Most people are giving you feedback based on their taste, and it's really important to remember that no one has an objective take. on a piece. Um, the options I tend to give when, assuming I have the time and mental space to read whatever it is that a friend sent, I'll ask them, did you want feedback or are you just sharing? And if they want feedback, I will ask them, what kind of feedback? Most people won't know how to answer that question, so I give options. Most, like, yeah, most people will not know how to answer that question. Um, so I'll say, do you want feedback on word choice? That's not what I really actually ever say. Um, Structure, do you want to know how it makes me feel? Are you looking to make changes? Do you have like a goal in mind for it? And none of these things, this is another thing where like if you ask enough questions, people are going to be overwhelmed, especially if they don't have a plan for the piece. But it could be that like secretly my friend wants to publish this piece. They're really proud of it and they have actually worked on it a lot, but they haven't shown it to anyone before. And so if I say, okay, like what are your intentions? Like is this a personal project that, you just you're playing with? This is to enrich yourself and you want to see um where it can go just for your own purposes. Or is it going to become a series? Is it going to become a book? Are you looking to publish? Are you looking for a greater audience? Does it fit into the world somehow? Like, I don't know. And also, I've asked these questions before I read it. Um, I think that's important. It may not be, um, because I don't want to, but first, I don't want to read the thing and then have feedback and have that not be wanted. And I also don't want to read the thing and then have to read it again because I wasn't looking out for, I mean, I will read it more than once. Um, but like if I can look out for whatever the specific interest is right off the bat, all the better. Probably you should be willing to read things a few times. That's another thing. Don't agree to give somebody feedback if you can't do it. If you don't know, fine. If you don't know that you can't, that's fine. But if you don't have the time to read the piece a couple of times, I'm not saying you have to read it a couple times, um, but you're going to want to to give feedback. You want to read it like you would read anything else, like you're having a good time and you're sitting down and taking a little break and reading, but you also want to read it with whatever it is they're looking for in mind. Um, Now I'm assuming that we are talking about friends here. These are not strangers. These are not I don't know, colleagues, and these are not like monocle wearing, pinky up, highfalutin, purebred writers. Uh, so this is just like trying to be a good friend and engaging in writing. Um, Another thing I will ask for is, and again, like this might be a really intimidating question to ask someone, so like you can work on phrasing and do it better than me. How do you want the feedback? Do you want me to say, here's the things I would change and why, hopefully. If you can't say why about something, you may not actually have feedback. You might just have an opinion. That's a just good pro tip. Um, do you want me to say, and this is something people who are early in their workshop experience do a lot, is I like this, I don't like this. If that's what you want to hear, you have to know that's just taste, and it's not necessarily, it shouldn't necessarily have any bearing on anything unless you are specifically writing to my taste. Um, if and this I think is much more helpful than it seems. I think starting out the it's getting to be really hot and I'm really glad the response process critical response process is getting really hot. It asks everyone involved in the workshop to ask questions, the writer of the piece and the responders. And so that's another option I would give. Do you want me to ask you questions about the piece, which should help you better understand the piece because you have to answer them? Um, do you want me to, and here's a question I just about always ask about my own writing in when I'm receiving feedback. Do you want me to tell you what I think is happening here? That could mean what do you think it's about? That could mean what do you think the point is, right? And I think that's just really useful feedback all around, but that would be something I would offer. Do you want me to tell you what I think is going on here? Do you want me to ask questions about the piece? Do you want me to just tell you how I feel about the piece or sections of it, or tell you the feeling I get from it? This kind of pre-reading communication makes a huge, huge difference. Uh, and especially in your relationship. Um, so everybody knows what they're looking for, and I'm not going to get mad at my friend for, telling me six things to change about a poem when all I wanted was to share my feelings, you know? Um, Yeah, that's that's most of it. I would say, especially if you want to do this more than once or like do it back and forth with the same person and they don't have to be set in stone and they don't have to be super serious, but to just set a couple of ground rules and say like, here's why I sent this, here's how I want you to respond, and here's what I how I will respond to that. Um, you can also add, as the writer, here's what I want from the piece. So earlier I sort of talked about like, is there a future to the piece? But sometimes what I want from the piece is, um, I want it to make you feel a kind of way. I want to properly process this thing I'm going through. I personally would refrain from giving that information right off the bat. I would wait until after the person has given some feedback to say, okay, now how do I get it to this next step? You don't have to wait. I would. I feel like if the person knows exactly what I'm going for, that will color their reading of the piece. But not everyone feels that way. Okay. Um, I think that's the gist. I made it all the way through all my notes, and um, yeah, I hope that helps. This has been really helpful for me so that I am not a jerk to my friends because my brain is always in like, this is my job. I have to behave a certain way. Um, kind of way. But also when I have asked for a reader who is not in that brain space that I live in, um, it's really helpful for them, and they have told me so, to know what I'm looking for. And again, like my having so much experience in this area can probably be intimidating or annoying on the other side too. Like if I'm asking you for feedback and you're like, well, Sarah expects this kind of feedback. I just tell you, like, no, I want to know how this makes you feel. I want to know what you think this is about. That's it. Or does this remind you of anything? That's great. I know how to respond to that. You know how to respond to that. All you have to do is know how to read. Um, so that shouldn't be too hard. If I'm looking for other things, and I tell you that, awesome. Now you know. And you can then tell me if you're capable or willing to do that instead of just reading a piece and hoping that that's fine. Yeah, I hope that's helpful. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm obviously always around to hear those questions. Let me know if you want me to elaborate about anything, if you want more videos like this, if you want videos about anything else that's specific, let me know. The comments exist. Now I'll give you some updates on the Midwest Writing Center. Assuming that you are watching this live today, same day, tomorrow is Friday the 13th of March, and we have a reading at the Atlas Collective for Jenna Goldsmith's tour for her new book, which again is not next to me. It's called The Worse for Wear. She's touring with Stephen Howe, also an incredible poet. Um, Jenna is the outgoing poet laureate of a former poet of Rockford, Illinois, and has a chapbook coming out with MWC Press. So like we really like her work. She's also been really great to work with. Poet laureateships come with a lot of education and community work. So like she's done some really cool stuff. She's a really great person to get to know. And also her work is awesome. So come hang out with us tomorrow, Friday, March 13th at the Atlas Collective, 5:30, and meet Jenna and Steve and hear some excellent poetry. I had to reschedule last week's online writer studio, so we are having a rain date this Saturday, March 14th, still online, still 11 to excuse me, still 11 to 1 p.m. Central Time. Yeah. Then what do we have next week? Um, we've got What a Poem Wants, our poetry critique group, and that comes with with guidelines on how to give feedback. Is March 18th. That's next Wednesday. Deadline to register to RSVP is this Sunday. And that's so that everyone can read each other's work in advance and know what kind of feedback they're getting. Um, but that is offered on a pay what you can basis. No one will be turned away for lack of funds. On March 26th, we have a couple of things going on. Memory Keepers, which is our totally free kind of a writing group, kind of a community group for folks looking to preserve their family stories, family legacies. That meets at 1 p.m. Thursday, March 26th. This meeting is at the Butterworth Center and has a special guest speaker, Nina Baker, who's a journalist. We'll talk about documentation. These groups often have some kind of expert in something, um, genealogy or record keeping or etc. And they often have writing prompts too that are meant to help you jog your memory, so that you can write down more of those stories. Um, then that same day, March 26th at 5:30 at the Watts Midtown branch of the Rock Island Public Library, Illinois State Poet Laureate Mark Turcott will be there reading and speaking, and that's supposed to be he's supposed to be just a really fantastic speaker. I'm excited. Um, Yeah, and you can look up his work in advance. He'll have a special guest reader as well, which has not yet been announced. So that'll be fantastic. And then the 28th of March is the Iron Pen Award ceremony and reading. The winners are going to be announced in advance of that. But anyone who participated is welcome to read the work that they uh, competed with in Iron Pen. That's on a first come, first served basis. We only have so much time, of course. And then the awards will be handed out, and the each person who registered for Iron Pen has the opportunity to win full tuition to the Collins Writers Conference. So that will also be, we'll find that winner then. The winner will be drawn then. Um, on because we currently have applications open for the Young Emerging Writers internship, which this year comes with we're also accepting submissions to the Atlas from folks who cannot be, for whatever reason, involved with the internship, who are still 15 to 19-year-old Quad City writers. There's an info session for that in person on April 1st at the Midwest Writing Center, so it's the ground floor of the Rock Island Public Library at 4:30 p.m., 4:30 to 6. To learn about the internship, if you have any questions. Um, until April 1st, we are open to submissions to the Foster Stall chapbook series. That deadline was extended, so if you're just about there with your chapbook, but you weren't ready on March 1st, you still have time to send that in. We are also still taking applications for the Great River Writers Retreat, which is a fully funded week-long retreat in rural Rock Island County for one writer in the Midwest to work on a project that is in process. Coming up on April 23rd, this is really, really exciting. We have Jeffrey McDaniel reading with the Spectra reading series that's at Roz Talks. There's going to be a community write-in, and I'm so excited. He's one of those writers who like I don't know, just seems larger than life. So I'm so thrilled about that. Um, yeah. So that's just some bits of what's coming up. Please let folks know about the internship applications, about Foster Stall and about the Great River Writers Retreat. We want to see folks. Um, Today I want to give a sort of a different prompt. Again, regardless, no matter what, write how it comes. It could be a list, it could be a poem, it can be a journal, it can be really anything that feels right. Whatever comes out is whatever comes out. But I would like you to imagine a conversation between you and someone you know really well, and imagine that one person is looking for advice. And there you are. Set yourself 5, 10 minutes on a timer, give yourself whatever you've got, and do some writing. As always, please write more light into your life.